Welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist. Couldn't be more excited to have you join us today. On this podcast, we celebrate the champions of change, the up-and-coming life, health and transformational coaches who are fearlessly stepping forward to make a difference in the world. Get ready for inspiring stories, practical tips, and powerful moments that will motivate you to make a positive change in your life and those around you. We're happy to have you join us on this incredible journey as we dive into the world of life, health, and transformational coaches who are lighting up the path towards a better tomorrow.
Welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Today we're speaking with Bree Sprague.
Sprague, that's right.
All right. Bree is a fitness coach and she just got some great and fun, exciting news just before we got on to chat together. So I'll let Bree share that with you. Go ahead, Bree. Tell us all about it.
Thank you so much. It's so exciting. On May 1st, I started on this venture. I had a friend from the gym saying, you should really put your hat in the ring. And it's for the Ms. Health and Fitness 2023 cover model competition for Muscle and Fitness, Hers magazine. And I am so honored to have found out that I made it to the final 8. And especially as somebody who prides herself in being one of the world's fittest grandmothers, I am so excited to even have this opportunity to have a larger platform to share health and wellness and the benefits it can have for us, especially as we age. So it just literally voting just started an hour ago. And we have 6 days. So it's going to be an exciting next 6 days. And I have some tremendous support. I'm really grateful for past clients and friends and new social media following, people who see your story and they get excited about it. So I'm really feeling very grateful, full of gratitude.
Well, once we get done recording this, we'll go ahead and I will get your link and I'll go vote for you.
Thank you. Well, it's pretty simple. It's voteforbree.org. BRE.
Oh, well,
okay. .org.
I can handle it. Okay. And I'll share with others so that they can help support you too.
And so there's 2 ways. I better tell people real quick though. There's 2 ways. You can vote for free every 24 hours, but I'm really proud that my community and I have raised nearly $18,000 for the Wounded Warrior Project because they have these warrior votes that people can purchase, whether it's $1 or $500, whatever people want to donate. So it's really cool to be able to provide and give back to our veterans who've served our country because they build accessible housing for veterans who've been wounded in service. So it's exciting.
That is exciting. And it is really a great cause. I'll definitely participate in that part too.
Thank you.
So, how did you get started? Tell us about your journey. You're definitely super fit. I know this is podcast, so I just have to put that out there right now. But I don't think you were always that way.
No, in fact, I struggled a lot with my weight. And in my late teens, I had quit swimming competitively and I kept eating like a competitive swimmer, which that type of nutrition plan and not exercising do not go well. Plus, I didn't know a lot about nutrition. I didn't know a lot at the time about the impact of sugar and processed foods. I mean, it was the 90s. And through a series of events that happened in my life, I was a non-traditional student. I decided to drop out of college and run away to Hawaii. And when I came back to college, when I came back to the States, Hawaii is the States. I'm sorry, Hawaii. When I came back to Dixieland, I wanted to go back to school, but I didn't quite know what I wanted to study. And I went to the gym and I fell in love with this program called Body for Life. And Body for Life was a 90-day fitness transformation. And I fell in love with weight training and nutrition. And I lost about 80 pounds. And And then bada boom, bada bing, I got pregnant. Sometimes that happens as a result of weight loss. and I decided that it was time for me and my son, I went the single mother route to have more opportunities open to us. And I knew my education was that. And when I went back to school at Indiana University, I studied exercise science and business entrepreneurship. And at the time, people said to me, well, what are you going to do with that degree? And my answer at the time was, I don't know, but I know that eating the right foods and moving my body makes me feel amazing. And I think I can help a lot of other people do the same thing. So that was really the start of it all. My son and I say he was the world's youngest freshman. And he was 7 months old when we went back to school full time. And it's been quite a journey ever since.
That is amazing. Losing all that weight, being a mom so young and taking it all on by yourself. Kudos to you for just stepping out and making it happen. So fast forward to where you are today.
Mm-hmm.
How did that all happen?
Oh, well, through life, and the career journey is a funny thing. When I got out of school, I was very blessed to be a personal trainer at a very, very nice athletic club. And this is the early 2000s, and we didn't have the influence of social media at the time. So I was really trading dollars for hours as a personal trainer, which a lot of trainers do. That means you work a lot of hours for not a lot of reward. There's very few Jillian Michaels in this world, right? And I got seduced into pharmaceutical sales. I think it's because I was personal training about half of the doctors on my call plan in West Michigan, because I was working at a hospital-run athletic club. And after 3 years in that, I actually started struggling with my weight again. I put on about 70 pounds again in 3 years. I'm really good at taking doctors out to dinner. But the thing for me is I realized that anytime I'm at dis-ease in my soul and in my alignment and where I'm supposed to be, my body manifests disease. And food addiction was my drug of choice. And you know, my son, I fast forward, you know, throughout the late 2000s, my son almost dies. I have this major life crisis during the worst recession we had seen since the Great Depression. And I decided that it was time for me to leave the traditional corporate path and go back into fitness. And I had the good fortune of working in corporate wellness for Subaru Automotive. And at that time, I got super, super fit because my entire job was teaching group exercise. I taught way more exercise than I would recommend anybody actually do for their health. And then I got into bariatric fitness after that. And the only thing though is unfortunately at that time, it didn't make a lot of money. I took a $45,000 base salary pay cut just to get back into fitness. And as a single mom, that was a huge life change, right? And as much as I loved it, it just wasn't paying the bills like I needed. And I found a little side hustle on LinkedIn in 2010 that I didn't want to do. It was the dreaded network marketing, which I always joke about because it is a fantastic industry for so many people, but I had no idea how the industry worked. But what I did see was an opportunity for me to sell a product that I was already taking and be able to pay for my childcare. And I had people who trusted me because they were great vitamins, and I was able to build a significant business, which allowed me to work from home for 10 years and be present in my son's life and still train people and personal train and be a single mom. And it was really a fantastic time. And then COVID happened, major life transition again. I've kind of had this talk with the universe, like, do I have to go through this every 10 years or have I learned enough lessons?
Right.
Because I'm good, but, you know, became an empty nester, global pandemic, and my business crashed. You know, I spent 10 years building it and it was gone. And I mean, we're talking about 20 grand a month gone. And I decided, well, I'm going to get into tech. I'm going to get into software, and software is a wonderful industry, but it's not where my passion is. And I finally, after this last year, I had 3 layoffs in 10 months because the SaaS industry, you know, had this trajectory during COVID, and then it was like, oh, we're going to start laying everybody off. And I said, okay, universe, I hear you. I've been talking for 3 years about going back into coaching full time. And that's where my coach Brie came from. I decided that I was going to go back into doing what really sets my soul on fire. And that's helping people feel empowered and achieve health of their desired outcomes based on mindset and nutrition and exercise. So that's the whole story right there.
And those are the 3 key things for getting fit. And it's not dieting. Dieting, you didn't say dieting in any of those 3 things.
No. And I think that's the thing is that, you know, I spent a lot of years in the fitness industry because you don't know what you don't know. And, you know, I had to do a lot of my own trial and error and do a lot of research. And when I work with people, I don't count calories. I don't preach that because we're looking at sustainability and also what is the truth about how does your body utilize the fuel you put in it, and how do you still enjoy the summer barbecues? We have 4th of July coming up. How do you still enjoy all those activities of life, but yet be able to live in a way that you don't have diseases of lifestyle manifest? As when I was working in bariatrics, you know, where patients needed a surgical intervention, you know, people are coming in with metabolic syndrome, type 2 diabetes, hypertension, all of these issues, because actually only about 12% of Americans are actually metabolically healthy, and that's terrifying. And I look at it from a holistic perspective of how do we make these shifts, starting with your mindset, so that you can truly have total control of your overall health and wellness.
And it doesn't happen overnight. People, when you talk to them about getting fit, it's like, first there's the, I need to lose X number of pounds. Well, pounds aren't all the same. You know, a pound of fat is different than a pound of muscle. That operates differently in your body. And fat's not necessarily a bad thing. Your body's designed to use fat. You store toxins and stuff in your fat.
Your brain needs it.
Your brain needs it.
Fat.
Your brain is fat. You know, we're not even talking about, you know, the don't eat fat crowd.
Right.
And women are different than men.
100%.
You know, the whole, oh, well, just don't eat so much and move more. yeah, no, doesn't work for women. You go ahead, honey, and you believe that. My husband's a bodybuilder.
Oh, okay, so you get it, yeah.
I totally get it. And I listen to him. You know, he doesn't eat breakfast and loses 5 pounds. Like, yeah, I hate you.
Well, and a big part of that is when you look at the hormonal profiles of men and women, this is a lot of what I work with people of both men and women. Men have a 24-hour hormonal cycle. Women have a 30-day hormonal cycle.
Yes.
So we are completely different in terms of how we have to approach what we eat, when we rest, all of it. You can't cookie cutter a program for anyone.
And not every day is the same.
Right.
During the 30-day cycle. You know, some days you're just not going to have energy. Get over it. And it's part of being a woman.
Right. And depending on how old you are. I mean, especially I'll be 44 in a few weeks. And you can build muscle at any age. You can, you know, when I tell people how much I weigh, they're always shocked because again, muscle and fat and looking at overall body fat percentage. But, you know, the thing is that your hormones are really the key to everything, and balancing it and figuring out where you're at in life and what you can do to your advantage, and how you can't do the same thing at 44 that you did at 34. It's just not going to work the same.
Yep. And it makes all the difference. And knowing how to work with your body and the whole mindset thing. We're going to talk about that too, because people get into loops and the loops just make the problem worse. And they think they have the information, but they really only have about 3 pieces of a 100-piece puzzle and they're
Oh,
trying to like fit those three pieces together and make it work for them. And it's not their fault that they're struggling. It's just the information hasn't been out there, and there's just a handful of people, and you're one of them, that are out there actually helping women make a change that's sustainable long term.
absolutely. Thank you about that. And I think you hit a key point there. And again, people don't know what they don't know. And unfortunately, the system, fitness industry included, is not set up to help people win. Because there's so much misinformation out there. And I think overall nutrition literacy is actually only about 11% too. When you have those conversations about, well, what is a protein? What is a carbohydrate? Things that, many people think, well, why don't you know this? Most people can't identify even what is truly real food that they should be putting in their body, right? And
People don't even know how to cook.
They don't. I mean, I was born in 79, and so many people in their 40s think that cooking is grabbing a Stouffer's lasagna and putting it in the oven. Like, that is not cooking.
No, that's warming up.
Exactly.
And so much of food preparation doesn't even really require a lot of heat to be applied to it. I'll put it that way. There's a lot you can do with fresh stuff, and fresh stuff is way better for your body because it's still alive and you're trying to nourish your body. Your body needs living enzymes, and you can take supplements if you must, but the best way to get it is to eat real food.
100%. And especially in these beautiful warm summer months, being able to get food from your local produce providers, your local farmers. A lot of people don't understand that when something is picked halfway across the globe, it's not ripe yet. It's not really ready. And there's a process, or there are additional additives put to it so that you can eat it when it gets to you. And so the composition of the food really isn't all that great in terms of its integrity by the time it gets to you. So eating local during these months is one of the best things you can do for your own health. And it supports your local farmers.
Yeah, and it doesn't take much to grow stuff on your own. I have lettuce growing in my grass. There's a certain section of my yard where it's just like, honey, no, you can't mow over here because there's lettuce. And I just go out and I pick through the grass. It's really weeds. My yard is mostly weeds, and many of them are edible.
Well, and I tell people all the time, because a lot of people go, I don't know how to do this. And I say, we have this thing, which I believe our video is going to be cast on, called YouTube. And YouTube will teach you everything you need to know about how to grow something out of a pot in your backyard.
Or in your house with a grow light.
Absolutely.
Even microgreens are super easy
and delicious on salads.
They're delicious in everything.
True.
I get bird seed, black sunflower bird seed in the 50-pound bag. And it's not for human consumption. I have to make sure everybody understands you are not to eat these out of the bag. They are for birds. But if you throw them in a little bit, first you soak them for like 24 hours, and then you put them in a little layer of dirt, and you sprinkle a little bit more dirt on top of them. After about 7 days, you'll have sprouts. And those sprouts are so delicious.
Oh, yeah.
So cheap. To spend $20 for a little bag from Amazon. Just go to your local farmer's store or whatever.
Absolutely.
Bird feed store. So that's your tip for the day.
I like it a lot. I will have to try that out myself. And so I think you mentioned mindset, right?
Yep.
Let's dig into that. I love mindset training.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because it all comes back to what you think about and how you process those thoughts.
100% every time.
You go.
I'm a big believer that pain can be a very powerful change agent. And people have to, myself included, oftentimes get to a point where it is too painful to stay where they're at. And in many ways, you can avoid that when it comes to your health. If you start doing some shifts before you have diabetes, before you have hypertension. And first and foremost, there is nothing wrong with liking how you look when you get out of the shower naked. Like, there is nothing wrong with wanting to wear a dress to your reunion that you want to, fit into, or wanting to have biceps as a grandmother like I do. There's nothing wrong with that. But for myself, there's been a shift that's been happening over the last several years, where I started to look at that marginal decade of my life, which I hope is very, very far in the future. And I started to look at my two different grandmothers. And I had one grandmother who died at 61 years old. She died of alcoholism, which is a horrific disease. She was a heavy smoker. By the time she died at 61, she went from being this just stunningly gorgeous woman to losing her life to disease of lifestyle, right? And then my other grandmother died at 97 years old, and she was your Depression era child, grew up on a farm, meat and potatoes, but she never struggled with her weight. She was very healthy up until in her mid 90s. She started losing some strength in her legs, mostly because she got to the point where she just didn't want to do the exercises anymore. So I started looking at myself going, well, how do I want to live in that last decade of my life? Because I want it to be quality, not quantity. I don't mind living until my 90s as long as I have quality of life. I don't want to spend my 90s wasting away in a nursing home dependent on somebody else to care for me while I'm just waiting for my body to die. Nor do I want to be in my 50s or 60s dealing with advanced stages of disease that I could have prevented if I had just made a decision that this was not how my story was going to end. And when people think it's about habit, but really it's about routine. And it's about committing to that routine. And if it's in your calendar, if it's coming out of your bank account, it's important to you. That's a priority. And if it's, people say, well, I don't have time, but they have time to scroll through Instagram for 30 minutes, and they have time to watch Netflix and binge on that. They have the time, they haven't made a priority. And when you really kind of tap into what are your values and what do you want and why, it's a lot different. And for me, especially when my granddaughter was born, she's going to be a year next month, I decided she would never see me as anything else than fit. Because especially in this world where we're struggling with obesity, she's going to have all sorts of examples of what not to do with negative health ramifications. I knew I could be a person in her life that was a positive example, and by benefit, I would live a life of health that I want to live.
That is amazing. And it just goes to show the power of making a decision, which is a lot of mindset. It's just making a decision that this is how I want things to go. Mm-hmm. And it's never too late.
Oh, never.
I'm 63.
You're not.
I am.
Kudos to you. You're doing the right things.
But I was your age when I had my last child.
Oh, okay.
And having kids does keep you young, because you have to keep going. You can't just sit back and go, oh, I'm in my 40s now, and I can just do whatever I want. My kids are all grown and gone. And I chose to start over, so I had to stay in the game and stay up with everything. And I couldn't just let myself go.
You need the energy. Exercise and nutrition. You needed the energy.
Yeah, and you can't live in the country and have a homestead and do all the things and think you're just going to be lazy and hang out, because there's always something to do. And when you're busy with your mindset, when you've made a decision that you're going to go towards something, it just makes it makes it so that the things that come along in your life seem to kind of bolster you towards that goal, if you've clearly articulated what that goal is. Like for you, being fit and a healthy grandma is like, that's an admirable thing. And as you get older and you're in your 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s, and I know lots of people in their 80s and 90s that are just, they're still young at heart and moving, and you know, in good health. But universally, those people have some sort of exercise routine that they do. They're active. They do stuff. They don't sit in front of the television all day. They have interests and they cook and eat well. And a lot of them garden and do stuff like that. But even if it's just walking, walking is huge.
It's the most underrated exercise there is. The most underrated.
Yeah. And it feels so good. You just to go out and walk for an hour.
And I think the thing that you really hit on there, and this is one thing I try to stress to people, is your identity shapes everything. And that law of proximity is real. You know, generally, if you're more fit, you're going to spend more time with more fit people. If your finances are pretty good, you're going to spend more time with more financially secure people. So that law of proximity is pretty real, but it starts with your identity and how you identify. And when you use the words I am, I'm very careful about how I use the words I am, because I am, whatever you put after it is what's going to follow. And when you look at mindset, your mind is going to do whatever you tell it to do. It is. And so the words I am are powerful. If you say, you know, like when I'm in the gym, I am talking to myself all the time. I am strong. I am powerful. I am fast. You know, I talk to myself that way all the time, because if I use negative words, and it's so easy, especially women, to look in the mirror and to say the most horrific things to yourself that you would never say to anyone else. That imprints on your psyche. And so, you know, sometimes I tell people, you know, and there actually, I can't take credit for this. There's a wonderful teacher called Marissa Peer, P-E-E-R.
I love that woman.
She says, tell yourself a better lie. Tell yourself a better lie. And she's right, you know, every single time. But, you know, the identity is shaped by the words I am and how you see. So that's why I made a decision. I am one of the world's fittest grandmothers, period, end of story. And it's put me into that role, because it'd be real easy to say, no, I'm just in my 40s and I'm getting older and this is just what happens. And that's a lie. That's a lie. And so I get to tell myself what I want versus attracting what I don't want.
We are such powerfully creative beings, and people tend to forget that if they ever knew it. And whatever you put out, whether it's just in your thoughts, even, you're creating something. You're either going to be creating something that you really love and want, or you're going to be creating something that you don't really want. And you do that by being in fear about what could happen, instead of being in the love zone, some people like to call it, where, you know, you're just attracting the things that you really want to have happen. And you're dreaming about, you know, great opportunities or great ways of being, experiences that you can have as you go through life.
Well, absolutely. I firmly believe that you can be, do, and have whatever you want. And it comes down to, like we said, the power of decision, but there's that accountability factor, because also not making a decision is a decision in itself. Yeah, we have one life that we're living here, and we can either decide to let life happen to us or for us. And sometimes the things that seem to be happening to you, it might not feel like it at the time. Like, was it fun when my son almost died and the recession was happening? No, absolutely not. But looking back on it now, the critical points in my life that were a catalyst for change for me, I could not have experienced any other way but to experience them that way. And it led to powerful decisions of me saying, this is not how my story is going to end. And that empowerment, you're right, people don't oftentimes realize how powerful we are. And it comes down to, are you going to be the victim or the victor in your story? One of the things that I do more than anything is I invest in myself. I'm not a TV watcher. I actually don't even own a TV. Not saying I'm better than anyone who owns a TV. Watch your TV. But I read a lot. I invest in my mind, because just like your physical body, if you don't use it, you will lose it. And I want to be sharp the rest of my life. And I learned there's so much, just from taking 15 minutes a day to read, that we can learn, and that truly shapes how our lives look.
15 minutes a day is hour and 15 minutes, 5 days a week.
Mm-hmm. Nothing.
But it's a lot. It's 5 hours over the course of a month, 60 hours over the course of a year.
That multiplication, you're right, compound interest.
Yep. And just the little thing, 15 minutes is usually enough to get a point.
Mm-hmm.
And when you start reading for longer, I mean, I love to read. I can sit down and get lost in a book and the whole weekend will be gone. But I didn't have television when I was growing up, like at all. And we still don't have a television in our living room.
Oh,
so
you're my kind of girl.
My sisters and I used to joke about anything under 200 pages was a commercial. And we were voracious readers. We had to live near the library because, my parents couldn't afford to keep us in books. We read so much. But yeah, if you're reading stuff for self-improvement, about 15 minutes is enough for you to get a concept that you can ruminate on for the rest of the day. Absolutely. And then you get another piece that will build on that. And so it's easier to implement what you're reading. I was listening to Alex Hormozy the other day, and he's talking about, people read books but never do anything with the information. If you only read for 15 minutes, those kinds of books, you're more likely to put them into action and get something productive out of that information.
Well, life is an action sport. I work a lot with people in the recovery community, being in recovery myself. And for example, the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, there are people, well, I read the book. Okay, well, but did you do what the book said? So, life in itself is an action sport, and knowledge without action is really futile. And you see that in every area of life. You see it a lot in health and wellness and nutrition. People will read something and be like, oh, well, that sounds like a good plan, but it's the implementation of the plan that is going to make it work out.
And that's really where coaches come in, because people can tell you how to do just about anything. You could find a book, you could go to YouTube, you can figure it out on your own, but it's the putting it into action, where having a coach who knows what the steps are, where the pitfalls are, where you're going to need somebody to just go this way. This is the direction you want to be in, instead of just charging ahead down the path that leads to the cliff and you end up someplace you don't want to be. But
100%. And even coaches have coaches. I have Absolutely. My own business coach. I had, when I was competing in a sport called High Rocks, which is a lot like CrossFit, even though I'm a personal trainer with a degree and 20 years of experience, I still hired a sports performance coach to coach me through it. And going to the expert is really an important thing, and you're going to get better results. It's an investment too. Are you going to look at, well, it costs so much? Well, it's only a cost if you don't see the value.
Yes. Yeah. Nothing is ever too expensive. It's just a matter of if it's what you need or not. If it's going to solve the problem that you have in the shortest amount of time, you're just paying for somebody else's expertise. You're shortening your learning curve, and you're going to pay that cost whether you're doing it by doing it yourself or you're going to pay the cost by hiring somebody to do it right, and then you're going to have it done the right way sooner.
Absolutely. And I like the learning curve to be shorter.
Yeah, me too. Life's too short to be messing around with figuring stuff out on your own.
Absolutely.
All the time. So what's the one thing you would really like our audience to take away from this call today?
That's tough, but I would say probably the one thing is for people to really grasp that they have all the power to live the life that they want within them, it comes down to deciding and getting clarity of what they want their life to look like, especially around their health and fitness. That it's much simpler than they usually make it out to be.
That's beautiful. And how can people work with you, Bree?
Oh, thanks, Jill. They can go to mycoachbree.com, B-R-E, remember that, My Coach Bree. You can find me on LinkedIn, Bree Sprague. You can find me on Instagram, Bree Sprague, My Coach Bree. And I am building out some other things through Facebook that are coming soon. So I will keep you abreast of that, Jill, so this way you could let your community know.
That would be awesome. We have really appreciated you having you on the show today, Bree. Thanks for coming.
It's been an honor.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another empowering episode of the You World Order Showcase podcast. We hope you've enjoyed hearing from our incredible life, health, and transformational coaches who are making a profound impact on the world. Remember, change begins with you, and you have the power to transform your life and the lives of others. If you want to take that next step and unlock your true potential, visit thecoachesalchemist.com, where you can find the 3 ways we can help you for free to spin your talent into gold with clarity, a system, and a plan. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an inspiring episode. And if you enjoyed today's show, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more people with our positive message. Stay connected with us on social media for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and upcoming guest announcements. You can find us on Facebook at the You World Order or simply visit thecoachesalchemist.com.